My name is Alok Shukla. I'm 44 years old. I'm a social activist. I've been working for community rights over land, water, and forests, environmental protection, and ensuring the rights of Adivasi tribes in Chhattisgarh for the past 2 decades. For the past decade, I've been part of the struggle to save the thriving Hasdeo Aranya forest in Chhattisgarh, along with the tribal residents of the forest. Apart from this, I'm a member of the Chhattisgarh Bachao Andolan, or the Campaign to Save Chhattisgarh, which is an alliance of people's movements in the state. Let me explain why we oppose coal mining in Hasdeo. Doesn't India need coal at the end of the day? This is a question that we are often asked. See, if coal was India's last resort for energy, and Hasdeo was India's only source of coal, then the residents of Hasdeo, they would themselves support mining. But in this day and age, we do not have to rely on coal for electricity. Renewable energy is growing by leaps and bounds. The government of India itself says that by 2030, India will meet half of its electricity demand through renewable sources of energy. This means that the need for coal in electricity generation will progressively reduce. The government's own agencies, including a survey conducted by Coal India Limited, have stated that India's maximum coal requirement by 2040 will be 1,500 million tons of coal annually. Let's assume that it goes up to even 2 billion tons annually. India has coal reserves of roughly 450 billion tons. The government of India has committed that India will be net zero by 2070, which implies that we are looking to phase out coal entirely. So, even if we use up to 2 billion tons of coal every year for the next 50 years, we still cannot use more than 100 billion tons. In this situation, we can prioritize and decide which places we will mine for coal. The Hasdeo region is a rich forest area full of biodiversity, a habitat for so many species of wildlife. It's the catchment area for the Hasdeo River, which irrigates 400,000 hectares of farmland. The traditions, lives and livelihoods of its tribal residents are tied to this forest. The government itself had declared Hasdeo a no-go area for mining in 2010. Then should this forest be destroyed and razed down to mine coal? There are regions of the country where coal can be mined that don't have dense forests, that aren't environmentally sensitive. So then why do we want to destroy Hasdeo? India has ambitions of leading the world. We grant that India's contribution to historical carbon emissions is low compared to developed countries. We also grant that India needs to build infrastructure for its development. But we have alternatives to coal. We have renewable energy. We have the ability to base our development model on this alternative source of energy to address the risk of climate change. So, India can lead the world on this. It can develop itself using renewable energy and minimize its carbon emissions. India's development does not depend on coal today. The tribal residents of Hasdeo have been fighting to save Hasdeo for the past 12 years, and I have joined them in their struggle. Hasdeo's village assemblies have conducted this struggle peacefully and using constitutional means. Their movement and their struggle to save Hasdeo won a huge victory in 2021. About 1,800 square kilometers of the forest was notified as the Lemru Elephant Reserve then. 25 out of 30 coal blocks that have been identified in the Hasdeo forest come within the reserve area. 17 of 23 coal blocks that were already listed for allocation or auction are now inside the elephant reserve, which means that they cannot be mined. The elephant reserve notification even stopped 2 allocated coal blocks from going ahead with opening up for mining. Soon after notifying the Lemru Elephant Reserve, the Chhattisgarh State Assembly unanimously resolved that there should be no further coal mining in Hasdeo, which is another of the movement's demands. Following this, the Union Coal Ministry denotified 40 coal blocks in the reserve and its adjoining areas. This was a major victory for the movement by Hasdeo's residents. A huge section of the forest has been saved by their movement, but this victory is incomplete. 5 coal blocks that are in the Sarguja district have been kept outside the elephants reserve area because of pressure from one mining company. Of these 5, the Parsa East Ketebasin coal mine is already operational and efforts are gathering steam to start mining in the adjoining Parsa coal block. The part of the Hasdeo forest that lies in the Korba district has been protected completely by the elephant reserve. The denotification of coal blocks in this area and the cancellation of allocations is a point of pride for our movement. The movement to save Hasdeo has provided a model for how patient and peaceful struggle with the right strategy to argue its case can get results. It has already saved a large part of Hasdeo. We are now going to convert the pride of this victory into momentum for the struggle to save that part of the forest that is still not protected, where trees are still being cut down. The struggle to save Hasdeo is a struggle against corporate loot and plunder and a struggle to protect the tribal rights to life and livelihood. It is a struggle against the mining company and against today's state and central government that are standing with the mining company, supporting it. The state is supporting the company in every way. Now, whoever stands against this state corporate nexus is targeted and harassed in various different ways. Our tribal comrades in Hasdeo are facing criminal charges in a range of false cases. People are threatened to stay away from the movement. Whoever has joined the movement faces this. When the list of people targeted for surveillance by the Pegasus software was released, my phone number was also among the list of targets. In the past couple of years, organizations that have nothing to do with the Hasdeo struggle, such as the Center for Policy Research, for whom I work as a consultant in a completely different area, they have faced institutional harassment due to their alleged link to the struggle to save Hasdeo. When you struggle to save the land, water and forests, when you struggle to protect the environment, facing these kinds of pressures and attacks is natural. The struggle and the attacks we face for it are both just a part of life now. We can't do anything about it. It's a part of our life. The question that this struggle is raising is not exclusive to tribals and irrelevant for non-tribals like me. It's a question of life. I remember when I first went to Hasdeo in 2012 and spoke to the people in the villages, I saw how beautiful the forest is, and I saw that the people didn't want it to be destroyed for mining. But they didn't have any sense of how to stop mining. I remember that the people used to say in the initial years that how can we stop such a big company in the government? We will inevitably lose our land. In that time of hopelessness, I felt a duty to stay and organize the people of Hasdeo to prevent the massive injustice that was staring them in the face. They were facing mass displacement as the mining companies were set to snatch their ancestral land, water and forests. I decided then that I would dedicate my life to helping the tribals of Hasdeo fight to protect their land. The Hasdeo forest is not just significant for them, it matters for all of us. The forest gives us air to breathe. The forest gives us our water. The Hasdeo forest affects the entire country's monsoon. So, while the tribals of Hasdeo are certainly fighting to save their homes and their villages and their forests and their livelihood and their traditions, the survival of the Hasdeo forest affects all of us, not just them. Climate change, of course, is a threat to life everywhere on earth. It is also a massive injustice. India's constitution guarantees every citizen an equal right to life. This applies to the tribals of Hasdeo as well. Why should they pay for the fact that there is coal under their feet? Why should they be thrown out of their homes? Why should their villages be razed down for that? This form of development is unjust and unequal, and I believe that it is the responsibility of every citizen to fight against such injustice. There is no question of which caste you belong to, which religion you belong to, and so on. It is everyone's responsibility and our duty to raise our voices against injustice. This is not just about Hasdeo. For the past 2 decades, I have struggled for community rights to land, water and forests all over in Chhattisgarh. I have raised my voice against injustice, whether it is in Hasdeo, Bastar or Raipur. Where the environment is being destroyed in the name of development, it is all of our duty to speak out against it wherever in the world it's happening. That's how I see my role. I only hope that Hasdeo is saved. A large part of it has already been saved, and our struggle now is to save those parts of it that are still facing dark clouds. Our constant effort is to strengthen the movement to save Hasdeo. We have been getting support from all over Chhattisgarh and all over the country. People who have never seen Hasdeo are raising their voices to save Hasdeo. This is the power of our movement. This is more than we could have ever hoped for. We have seen that other movements that fight against displacement rarely get this kind of support. People elsewhere are okay with people being displaced. Hasdeo's movement has broken all these boundaries and got massive support from villages to cities, across castes and religions. Hasdeo has become a popular mass movement that people everywhere are talking about. When I first went to Hasdeo in 2012 and helped set up the committee for the struggle to save Hasdeo, we could have never anticipated how much support we would get. The support that the movement to save Hasdeo is getting today is itself a huge achievement. I never think beyond that. I had never imagined or considered this kind of recognition before I was first informed that I was being considered for this prestigious international award. It surprised me, to be honest. In my eyes, this award is for the tribals of Hasdeo who have struggled for so many years. This award is for every citizen associated with this movement. This award will help widen and strengthen the movement. I see it as a recognition of the model that the movement of Hasdeo has shown for how deprived people can struggle peacefully against a powerful corporation to protect their resources. I hope that this can give strength and belief to other movements to fight for their land, water and forest. It will give them belief that such struggles to protect the environment can be waged and can be won. When I first went to Hasdeo, I saw that people didn't know about the Panchayat's extension to Scheduled Areas Act, the Forest Rights Act. They didn't know about the legal framework and the rules that govern mining. It's unfortunate that word of the Forest Rights Act, which was made to stop historic injustice against tribals, has not reached the people it was meant for. The Panchayati Raj system was extended to scheduled areas in 1996, which was meant to empower local self-governance for tribals. This act empowered village assemblies as decision-making and legislative authorities to self-direct a village's development, but the people didn't know about this act. In this context, I felt that my work is primarily to inform the people about the rights that they have under the constitution and under the law. When people have the information about their rights, they fight for their rights. This is what Babasaheb Ambedkar said. His slogan was, educate, agitate, organize. So I follow that line of thought when I go to the villages of Hasdeo to work for this movement. I work to unite people. Today even villages are being torn apart along the lines of caste, religion and party. I work to unite people beyond these divisions, and I work to inform them of what the law says. Let them decide what they want. If they have the right information, they will decide for themselves what the best course of action is for them. The information has to reach them. They must be able to give free, prior, and informed consent to projects that affect them. This is a right that is recognized internationally. In Chhattisgarh, we have seen days where village assemblies were forced to consent to projects with guns to their heads. The Hasdeo struggle is also at the level of the village assembly. People are opposing mining in their village assemblies, but their consent is being forged and falsified. This is how we work to organize people, to inform them of the law and guide them. They fight for themselves. My role is only to help and support. The movement to save Hasdeo is being waged by the tribals of Hasdeo. I am with them in their struggle and work to get them the right information.
जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद लड़ेंगे लड़ेंगे जीतेंगे इंकलाब जिंदाबाद इंकलाब जिंदाबाद